My name's Adam Kinghorn, and I'm a musician here in Golden, and I've lived in Golden most of my life. Well, 7 years ago, boy, I was sitting on a mountaintop, thinking about the good times and how his life had changed. Me said to the sky, as if someone would reply, I'm going down to that place I gotta be. You know, growing up in Golden was really neat because you had the small town feel, but you had so much character in the town. I lived in the historic district, and so my house was literally 100 years old. And we're always looking for ghosts in my house and stuff like that. Going down, that place I gotta be. I'm going down, that place I gotta be. I'm going down, that place I gotta be. In the Colorado backcountry. Yeah, my mom played guitar, and I remember she'd always write songs and she'd sing them to us, and at the time, you know, we're like, Mom, you're embarrassing us. Then I hit an age when I realized that it sounded really good, and she'd written some really great stuff. Nothing better than jamming with your mom, I have to say. It's the best. Nights under the stars, and the Rockies free from cars. I'm going down to that place I gotta be. Going down to that place I gotta be. Going down to that place I gotta be. Down to that place I gotta be. In the Colorado backcountry. I played in a punk band growing up in high school. We were called Shortchanged because we were so, you know, we were ripped off. We felt like society had ripped us off, but really we just had a lot of angst. Yeah, our first big performance was at the Buffalo Rose in Golden, and you know, it's a biker bar, but they have a really unique room in there. It's a big room to play music in, and we were 16 and had no idea what was going on. It was pretty funny. I do love being a musician, and I really think it's the connection that you have with other musicians. I think that's the most important thing about music, is you get to express yourself with other people. Something happened in college where I felt the need to start playing bluegrass music. So I got an acoustic guitar, and I met all those guys in the dorm rooms. And our first rehearsal as Head for the Hills, which is the name of our group, actually took place in the dorm room. Unchain my heart, baby, let me be. Unchain my heart, unchain my heart, unchain my heart. Head for the Hills just seems like a really unique expression that kind of sums up our whole existence here in Colorado playing music. One of our first real gigs was here in Golden at the Higher Grounds coffee shop. And the place was really packed to hear us play, and we were all so nervous because it was a new style of music for us. The bluegrass music was new. And it went really well, and people really enjoyed it. We used to sing our songs together, watch her do our little part. She'd smile at me when I would tell her that she was my sweetheart. Some people don't realize that Golden has a really great musical community that is really thriving, and a lot of that takes place informally, just with jam sessions, and Golden City Brewery is one of the places where people meet to play. And people always ask, what time are you going to be there? I don't really know, it just kind of happens. Being a musician full-time definitely has its ups and downs. Creatively, it's hard to write new music and keep it fresh for people that come and see you every night. I think that's one of the great things about living here in Golden, though, is I feel this constant creative inspiration just by living here with such a beautiful place. There's my sweetheart on the mountain. She's my little Georgia Rose. I said she's my little Georgia Rose. I curse the day, I laugh the mountains. I continue to call Golden home because I love it here. It's a small town. It's a beautiful place to live. more than anything, it has that sense of community that I love about a small town, and just being around all these great people that play music and love music and embrace it. It's a really special thing. Take the high road out of town, and take the high road out of town.
Dan Holstein, and I'm a piano technician, tuner, and rebuilder. You know, square grands were made, you know, from the 1840s up to about the turn of the century, just before 1900. And they were a decent piano for their time, but they're nowhere near as good as a modern piano. We're going to start disassembling the Pelton Square Grand for restoration. And we'll be taking the strings off and pulling the hammers or the action out and disassembling the action and getting ready to order parts. This is the piano action. Basically, it's the key frame with all the keys and everything that makes the hammers go up and strike the strings. This is the action for the piano, and we're replacing the hammers, taking off the old felt and putting on new. Well, we're going to start stringing this piano up. Start with the highest note and work my way down. The screw secures the action in place. For all intensive purposes, done. I need to make a few more adjustments, but otherwise it's ready to play. You know, I enjoy what I do, the work in general. Kind of get a feeling of you know, if this piano can only talk, you know, the stories it could tell. Who knows what it would say? You know, that's what you wonder about with all of these old instruments. You know, where they've been and who's played them, you know, who's touched the keys.
I'm Ross Kershaw, the pastor here at First United Methodist Church in Golden. I have been here about 11 years. The church is a unique church in that it's the oldest continuously worshiping Protestant congregation in the state of Colorado. We do have some kind of unique things. We were founded in 1859. This is about our fourth building here, and is slightly different than the gambling tent that we started in. But one of the beautiful things about our church is the unique organ that we have.
We've had a pipe organ in here since the building was built in 1962. Not as large as it is now. It was originally 3 ranks, and then they added 3 more ranks over the years. So we had 6 ranks when we started the rebuilding of this organ.
Not necessarily for its size or its quality, but more for its history, because it's come from many different places. So maybe we could go in and take a look at it.
The organ at the high school was being vandalized, and they wanted to find a new home for it. And we had this opportunity to acquire it. And Gene Childs was involved with that.
I'm Gene Child, and I taught physics at Golden High School back in the 80s, and I saw that the pipes were being destroyed by the students, and so I knew that the Methodist Church had a similar pipe organ, so I said, let's salvage the pipes we can and increase the size of this organ. In this room were the original pipes that had been put in here in the early 80s, and here you have metal pipes that I think these are oboes, and so underneath here you have little electrodes that open and close when you want to play a note, and then the air comes up through, and the vibration makes the sound that you're looking for. Some of the pipes are metal, the pipes in the back are wood, and then here we have some brass pipes. These pipes are the low notes that are played on the organ.
We've increased our organ size from 6 ranks to 15 ranks. That's approximately 1,000 pipes in total. Each rank's about 70 pipes.
These are the pipes that were all added when we did the renovation, and so then off up here in the corner we have what's called a Zimbelstern, which is just a motor, and it goes around and round and round and tinkles the little bells. I found the motor in a Chevrolet junk car down in a junk car yard in Denver, and put it together to make this thing work.
As dedications are, it was one of those amazing events where an outside organist was brought in to play. And one of the fun things about it was that at that time we only had a limited power supply, and one of the things you were not supposed to do was to hit a little thing down here called a sforzando, which pulls everything on the organ on. And the concert had gone wonderfully, and he came down through the end of this bombastic piece and decided, oh well. And he hit it and put his hands down on the keyboard at the close, and there was not a sound. That has since been changed. Well, organs in general, and this organ is with a piano, you're going to have basically one sound. It might be a little louder, a little softer, but with an organ you have so many different textures and sounds, and you can put combinations together and just change from moment to moment how it sounds. The next piece is probably one of the more recognizable of the classic works. It's from Bach. It's called the Toccata and Fugue in D minor. We'll just play the toccata because the whole piece is very long, but you will recognize it from many different contexts.
Okay, four, get them ready for that first set. Up the river and around the bend, grab your partners, we go again. All hands up, break them down, little moonshine in your mouth.
Before the invention of television, even before electricity, there was one activity that literally kept the midnight candle burning long into the night: square dancing.
There wasn't a lot of entertainment the way there is now. We didn't have television and so on. We played cards in the evenings, we played games, and there was radio. We'd listen to the radio, and we went to, there would be neighborhood dances.
From the early 1900s to the 1950s, square dancing was a popular pastime in Golden. It was a way for hard-working folks to get some recreation as well as social contact with neighbors. And it was a lot of fun.
They dressed up fairly well for the dances. It was an occasion.
The only requirements were a wooden floor, musicians, and a caller. Golden native Lena Bauman and Mary Ramstetter remember that around here, there was no shortage of talent to go around.
George Anderle played the violin, and my mother would play the piano. And she wouldn't play the melody of the song, but she'd chord and keep the beat.
I saw Norm Ralston from over in Mount Vernon Canyon played the accordion a lot. I also saw Gene Anderle out of Central City play, I believe, a violin a lot, and those were the people I saw.
And then there was Bob Pasco, played, I think he was more guitar.
Golden native Charlie Ramstetter recalls when the city's main piano player, Alice McGuire Ramstetter, was put in jail for having slot machines. The police made sure her incarceration didn't stop the fun.
She would play for the square dances, and the deputy would actually escort her to the dance hall, which was either on Robinson Hill or Belcher Hill School. And he'd bring her in with the handcuffs. This is all show, I'm sure, and take the handcuffs off her. And this is an old lady. Huh. Well, I thought she was old. She was probably 45 at the time. But anyway, she'd play the piano till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the little deputy would put the handcuffs back on her and escort her out of the building. And they that ain't gonna happen nowadays.
A barn, somebody's living room, a schoolhouse, they were all transformed into tiny dance halls on Saturday nights.
It was a full hall, and of course a full hall would only be 3 or 4 squares. That's all the bigger the schoolhouse would hold.
A square was 8 people, so there would be 2 to 3 dozen dancers at a time. Robinson Hill and Belcher Hill schools were often used for the dances.
Beautiful. Heading home now.
The desks were pushed to the side, the music would start, and the caller would start instructing the dancers on what moves to do.
Tom Pierce used to call the squares.
And his face would get real red while he was calling them, and everybody just knew the dances by heart.
It would get warm in the schoolhouse, everybody in there and dancing, and the sweat would run off of his brow, you know. And he danced so hard, and the men would always wear their cowboy boots, and they'd stomp their heels into the floor. Sometimes the floor would just rock.
The music played, now timeless classics.
One of the waltzes I remember was Alice Blue Gown, and I think that they played the Beer Barrel Polka, and roll out the barrel. And in some of the square dances was old Dan Tucker. And dive for the oyster, dive for the clam.
It's one for the lady, ain't one for the man, and
Dive for the hole in the old tin can.
The dances ended with The Waltz You Saved for Me.
Oh.
And after that, they ended with Good Night Lady.
Good night, lady. We're going to leave you now.
These were not formal occasions. There were no dance lessons. It was just friendly and fun.
The square dances, most all of the kids, I believe, learned to dance just by being there. They went when they was 3 or 4 years old, and they started dancing whenever they could. Whenever they got old enough to get the big eyes for some girl, they'd figure out how to dance.
Charlie got big eyes for his wife, but not at a dance hall. They've known each other since childhood.
Do you recall, did you attend some dances together?
No, I was too little. I was just
He
a
was
little
just
tight.
a little kid.
Okay.
And I said, she's in Ulster.
Okay.
About 4 years.
Toward the end of the 1950s, many of the musicians passed away, and the weekly dances faded into a memory.
And then television came in, and people were finding other entertainment, and it just wasn't feasible.
The old schoolroom dances ended.
This looks beautiful.
But the music and the moves managed to survive and are now used in more spacious dance halls across the country. And after all these years, the wholesome fun of square dancing lives on.
Give yourselves a nice hand out there.